Hello! In this video, we'll be learning how to set up, calibrate, operate, and then close the Allevi 3D bioprinter that's located inside the biosafety cabinet in the dark room at RS421. First, you want to open up the computer that's next to the ramen machine, go into a web browser, and type in bioprint.allevi3d.com, and that'll take you to the web app where you log in with the autosaved lab credentials that are shown here. Next, you want to spray down your hands with 70% ethanol and switch the bioprinter inside the VSC. Back at the computer, you'll notice that the Allevi Bioprinter widget in question, number 55E539, is offline. Give it a minute to connect to the computer and refresh if it's taking too much time. You'll see a green button that says standby, and then later online beside the printer once it's been detected by the app. Sometimes there might be a yellow button that says update available, and generally you ought to hit the big update button to let it do its thing for a few extra minutes. Once the updates have been installed on the bioprinter, you'll see something like this, where the widget has a big green connect button. You want to go ahead and click that to access the settings menu that Matt's scrolling through right now. So on the flip side, you want to prepare your printer. So you place a petri dish or whatever your platform is on the red tray below the white print head. The printer can hold up to 3 print heads at a time, and they're all magnetically secured to the back wall over there, but we'll only be using the center one for this demonstration, and so I've removed the other 2. The print heads come with these Allevi syringes that can hold your bio ink, and once you pour your ink in there, you just have to attach the red tentacle thing to it and place it in the cavity within the print head. You want to watch carefully here as Matt places the wings on the tentacle in a very specific position so that they lock. That feels really good. Rotating back to the computer, one of the subheadings there says build plate, which basically means that you can specify here what surface you're 3D printing on. And since we put in a petri dish there, that's what we have this set to by default. And they draw that for you with a big circle on the screen. You can change it to a 24, 64, 96 well plate or other things in the drop down as well. Next, you have the extruder subheading, and the middle position one is always extruder 2. Here we're going to position the extruder 2 so that it's right smack in the middle of the petri dish manually using this pop-out menu that has the toggle buttons on the side. And this process is the calibration part. The XY buttons control the lateral position of the extruder in a plane that's parallel to the petri dish surface. And the Z menu controls the vertical position of the platform on which you put the petri dish. So the up button is going to make the plate move closer to the extruder, and the down button is going to make it move away. So if you forget this by any chance, you're going to stab the petri dish and potentially ruin the syringe. So please try not to do it. When you look closer, you see that there's like a ribbon beside the Z controller buttons, and this ribbon has numbers on it. The darker blue part indicates a selected number, and the number itself represents the increment by which the platform is going to change height if you press the up or down button. So you can change how far up or down the platform moves in a really coarse way by selecting the bigger increment, or in a finer way by selecting the smaller numbers. Since we want the position of the platform so that the petri dish surface just touches the syringe tip, we start out big and we become tiny when we get close. So I'm showing you this right now, and if you want to see this again, feel free to rewind. Once you get really close, you want to move to the tiniest increment, and you'll know when the plate touches the tip when there's no gap between the shadow of the tip and the tip itself. So you have to look closely. And if you try to move the petri dish at this point, there's going to be a little bit of resistance, but not enough to scratch the petri dish. And then later you can fiddle with the XY position to center the extruder in the middle of the petri dish, or wherever you want the origin of your printout to be. Press the set calibration button. That will position the extruder. And once you do that, you can move the plate away from the extruder again. 3D printer is going to read a .stl file typically, and you would have uploaded your specific model that you want to print out into the computer already. So you just have to navigate to the current print subheading on this app and hit the add print file button to tell the printer that you wanted to print this file. Then just reading through the rest of the settings, as you can fiddle with as you wish. You can just control the height of each layer of the printout, as well as the speed of the print, the starting position of the deposition with respect to the calibrated origin. You can also set a temperature for the extruder and the pressure at which the ink is pushed out. And then further, you may also choose to cross-link the ink with visible or UV light at an intensity, duration, and frequency of your choice, either before or after you print out. And this can be useful if you have like a polymer-based ink. And finally, you can also specify the temperature of your print bed itself. There's a lot of variables you can change here, so you do have a lot of choice, and you will be needing to optimize these settings depending on your project and the materials specifically in your bio ink. Okay, for the actual printing process, we're gonna need to look in the biosafety cabinet and find this gas tank pump thing. And this is where the printer extruders get their pressure from. So first of all, you flip the red toggle switch on this tank, and that's pointing to all the important parts. The gauge at the top is the one you control. It's the pressure that the pump feeds into the pipe for the printer. The other gauge here that's closer to the tank reads the pressure in the tank itself. You want to set the gauge at the top using the black knob behind it so that the dial reads a pressure that's 5 to 10 psi higher than your target pressure for the extruder, which we're going to specify in the settings on the computer app in the next little bit. So loosen the dial all the way to 0 and then tighten it back up slowly so that it reads roughly 25 to 30 psi for this example. Back at the computer, you're going to go to the extruder subheading, and in the pressure section, you can set the pressure to 5 to 10 psi lower than the gauge pressure. So in this case, 20 psi. And before you can begin the print, you just want to wait for the current pressure to read the same as the set pressure. And once that happens, you're free to hit that print button at the bottom. Good luck! So now let's pretend for a second that we've safely arrived at the end of a printing session, and now it's cleanup time. The first step is to loosen the black knob on the back of this gauge shown here so that it reads the pressure, reads 0 psi. Then you just flip the red switch down shown here and pull out the golden plug behind it to let out any trapped air in the vessel. And you want to do this until you stop hearing the hissy noise. The rest is super easy. Just remove the syringe from the cavity, remove the tentacle, put the syringe with the bio ink away for cleaning, remove the extruder from the machine, and then press the belly button to turn off the printer. And disconnect it from the web app. And that's all. Congratulations on reaching the end of this tutorial.